He started it all in a basement, his mother's basement, in Maywood, Illinois, with a dream that nobody else had yet, a rock and roll band with horns. Not a jazz band, not an orchestra, a rock band, with saxophones and flutes and clarinets sitting right alongside the electric guitars and the drums and the bass. The one who we are talking about is none other than Walter Parazaider. That idea, from a boy who had been trained since the age of 9 for a career in classical orchestral music, who graduated from DePaul University with a degree in classical clarinet performance, who heard the Beatles sing "Got to Get You Into My Life," and felt something click into place that no classical conservatory had ever quite produced. Walter Parazaider died on Tuesday, June 17, 2026, in hospice care. He was 81 years old. He had been living with Alzheimer's disease since his diagnosis in late 2020, a battle he announced publicly in April 2021 with characteristic directness and characteristic determination. His daughter Felicia Helen Parazaider announced his passing on Facebook. She wrote simply, "I love you, Poppy, my pal. You colored our world." You colored our world, a reference to the flute solo he played on Color My World, the Chicago song that became the slow dance anthem of an entire generation of high school proms in the 1970s. The most personal tribute possible, her father's music, in her goodbye, in 3 words. The open casket service was held in the Las Vegas area, where Walter Parazaider had lived in recent years with his wife and daughters, in a ceremony that brought together the surviving members of one of the most successful rock bands in American history, and the family that loved the man behind the saxophone. The band released its statement the morning of his passing. It read, "Chicago is heartbroken to share the sad news of Walter Parazaider's passing this morning. We extend our deepest condolences to his family, friends, and countless Chicago fans who are all grieving his loss today." A rock and roll band with horns was Walt's idea. He put the band together and they rehearsed in the basement of his mother's home. He is also the one who did the hard work to book shows for the young, unknown band, performing top 40 covers at local bars in and around Chicago. We are forever grateful for his contributions. We are forever grateful for his contributions. From the institution he built, the band he dreamed before anyone else believed the dream was possible. Chicago existed because Walter Parazaider walked into a room and said, "What if we did this differently? What if the horns were not background? What if the saxophone was the point?" Robert Lamb was in that room on the day of the service, the keyboardist and songwriter who joined Walter's band when it was still called The Big Thing, who was there before the name changed to Chicago Transit Authority, before the name changed to simply Chicago, before the first album, before the first stadium. He knew Walter Parazaider from before any of it existed. He did not use formal tribute language. He did not reach for the words that press releases use. He simply sat in the room, and those who watched him described a man who was processing 60 years of shared history in real time. The rehearsals in the basement, the bars in Chicago, the records, the tour, the decades, all of it arriving at once in a chapel in Las Vegas. Peter Cetera was there, the bass player and vocalist whose voice became the sound of Chicago's biggest commercial era, who departed from the band in 1985, but who never departed from the history that Walter Parazaider helped build. His complicated, decades-long relationship with Chicago is well documented. But on the day of Walter's funeral, none of that was the point. The point was a man in a casket who had dreamed the whole thing into existence in a basement in Maywood, Illinois. And Peter Cetera was in the room. Walter Parazaider was born on March 14, 1945 in Maywood, Illinois. He began playing clarinet at 9. He studied at DePaul University. He had been groomed for a career as a professional orchestral musician, and then the Beatles happened. Got to Get You Into My Life happened, and the rock and roll band with horns happened. His early practice sessions included guitarist Terry Kath and drummer Danny Seraphine, both friends from his teenage years. Another friend who became involved was future Chicago producer James William Guercio. The band, originally called The Big Thing, eventually became Chicago with the addition of Lee Lufning on trumpet, James Pankow on trombone, Robert Lamb on keyboards, and Peter Cetera on bass. That is the creation story. A group of young men from the Chicago area, assembled by one man with a dream, rehearsing in one mother's basement, booking their own shows at local bars, who eventually sold over 100 million records worldwide and became one of the best-selling music acts in history. Walter Parazaider booked those early shows himself. He did the hard work of getting an unknown band in front of audiences who had never heard of them. That is not a footnote to the Chicago story. That is the foundation of it. But wait, let me ask you something. Have you ever listened to Color My World and thought, who played that flute? Because the answer is Walter Parazaider, the classical clarinet student from Maywood, Illinois, who loved the Beatles and dreamed of a rock band with horns, sat in a recording studio, and played the most romantic 12 seconds in the history of Chicago's catalog. The slow dance melody that played at 1 million high school proms, that wound its way into 1 million first kisses. That became the specific, portable, completely irreplaceable soundtrack of a generation's tenderness. That was his flute, his breath, his decision to be in this band rather than an orchestra. He also played the saxophone solo on Just You and Me. He played clarinet across the catalog. He played whatever the music required, moving between instruments with the ease of a classically trained musician who had never stopped learning, even after he invented something new. In April 2021, 5 months after his Alzheimer's diagnosis, Walter Parazaider wrote a message to fans on the band's website. He said, "5 months ago, I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Needless to say, my wife, daughters, and myself were shocked and devastated. It has taken a while to process this news, and the fact is, we still are. The good news is we have a wonderful medical facility here, and I have a very good doctor. I am working hard and not going to give up." Not going to give up. From the man who invented a rock band with horns. From the man who rehearsed in his mother's basement and booked the bars and built the thing from nothing. Of course, he was not going to give up. He fought the disease for 5 years. He died peacefully in hospice care, with his family beside him. His daughter called him her pal. She said he colored their world. And in a chapel in Las Vegas, with Robert Lamb and Peter Cetera in the room, with the sounds of saxophones and flutes and clarinets still echoing across 60 years of recordings that will outlast all of them, the man who started it all was laid to rest. One fan wrote online, "Chicago was everything in my teen years largely because of the horns. Walter Parazaider was obviously a big part of that. His flute and sax solos are iconic. Hope he and Terry Kath have a great reunion." He and Terry Kath, together again. The guitarist and the woodwind player who rehearsed in a basement in Maywood all those years ago, reunited wherever the music goes after the recording stops. Walter Parazaider, March 14, 1945, June 17, 2026, aged 81. He colored our world, he really did. Rest in peace, Walt. Thank you for watching.